10 years of marriage ended with one open hotel door. My husband stood in the hallway with another woman's hand wrapped around his arm. Behind me, her dresses filled the closet of the suite he had booked for our anniversary. Adrian looked at me as though I had arrived at the wrong time. The woman beside him looked at me as though I had arrived at the wrong life. Everyone expected me to scream. I didn't. My hands remained steady. My voice didn't shake. I looked at the man I had helped build a home, a family and a future with, and understood something that should have terrified me. Losing Adrian would hurt, but it would not destroy me. Because 10 years earlier, before I became Talia Ryu, I had inherited something my husband's family never bothered discovering. My maiden name was not merely Reyes. It was a company, a port, a network of contracts controlling nearly half the routes keeping Ryu Holdings alive. Adrian had spent 10 years believing a waitress entered his marriage with nothing. He was about to learn that the woman he betrayed had quietly protected his entire empire. 12 years earlier, I worked nights at a seafood restaurant overlooking the harbour. It was the kind of place dock workers visited after long shifts and wealthy shipping executives entered when they wanted fresh food without photographers. Adrian Ryu arrived one rainy evening with two men in dark suits. They discussed shipping schedules over black cod as casually as other people discussed weekend plans. Adrian barely touched his meal. But he asked me 3 questions about myself before mentioning anything about him. Where did I grow up? Why was I working nights? What would I do if money stopped being a problem? I'd build hotels people could afford to feel important inside, I said. He smiled. Most wealthy customers asked questions only because they were waiting to speak again. Adrian listened. That was what I noticed first. He returned alone 3 nights later and requested my section. Then again the following week. By his 5th visit, my manager had stopped pretending not to notice. One night after closing, Adrian remained at his table while I counted receipts. "There's something you should know about me," he said. "That usually means a man is married. I'm not." "Then what is it?" "My family owns Ryu Holdings." I knew the name. Shipping, logistics, warehouses, real estate, private security contracts people rarely discussed openly. The Ryu family did not simply move cargo through the harbour. They influenced which companies received access to it. "It isn't small," Adrian continued, "and some parts of it aren't clean." "My father worked these docks for 30 years, I said. "Different offices, same water." He laughed openly and unexpectedly. "That is the first honest thing anyone has said to me about my family in years." 6 months later, he proposed on the pier behind the restaurant. "No photographers, no family, no ring. I don't want to wait for the perfect moment to ask something I'm already certain about," he said. "Marry me. Ask again when you have a ring." I was joking because I was terrified. He returned the following week with a small diamond he had chosen himself. Not my mother, not an assistant, me. I said yes. What Adrian didn't know was that my father had never been only a dock foreman. He spent 3 decades buying small shares in neglected harbour contracts, maintenance rights, loading access, storage agreements and docking permits nobody powerful considered valuable at the time. He bought slowly, quietly. By the time he died, those forgotten contracts had become Reyes Maritime, the majority stakeholder in the port infrastructure used by some of the region's largest shipping companies, including Ryu Holdings. My father left everything to me through a trust managed by his longtime attorney, Desmond Cole. I was 23 when Desmond placed the documents in front of me. I was still wearing the black dress I had worn to my father's funeral. "Your father never wanted you to inherit attention," Desmond told me. "He wanted you to inherit choice. I don't know how to run a port company. You don't have to touch it until you are ready. What happens if I'm never ready? Then it stays protected." I kept Reyes Maritime inside the trust, untouched. I didn't tell Adrian because I wanted him to choose the waitress, not the woman whose signature could affect half his company's supply chain. At our engagement dinner, Adrian's father asked what my family did. "My father worked the docks," I answered. Chairman Ryu nodded politely. His wife offered a thin smile. "A respectable trade. I imagine adjusting to this family's world will take time." Adrian heard the insult. "My marriage isn't an adjustment project," he said. "Talia is the woman I chose. For years, I remembered that moment whenever his family made me feel like an outsider. We married in a small ceremony. Adrian wrote his vows. I promised to see you the way I saw you that first night, he told me, before the world told either of us what we were supposed to want. For a long time, he kept that promise. Our daughter, Mila, was born 2 years later. Adrian sat beside her hospital crib all night, refusing to sleep because he was afraid something might happen if he closed his eyes. When Mila was 4, I started a hospitality consulting company. It was modest but mine. I redesigned guest operations for boutique hotels and earned every client without using the Ryu name. Twice a year, Desmond called. The trust is stable. No action needed. Good. Keep it that way. Our 5th anniversary was spent at an inn overlooking the harbour. Adrian surprised me with an old photograph of my father. I want both halves of your life to belong in the same room, he said. That was the Adrian I loved. The man who remembered where I came from. The man who defended me. The man I continued searching for long after he began disappearing. The distance arrived gradually. Business trips became longer. Calls became shorter. Adrian started coming home after Mila fell asleep, then after I did. 8 months before our 10th anniversary, I found a restaurant receipt inside his coat pocket. Dinner for 2. A bottle of wine I knew he hated. There was also perfume on his jacket that wasn't mine. He said it came from a client embracing him after a successful negotiation. I let myself believe him. Not because the explanation was good, because doubting him meant questioning the last decade of my life. Our 10th anniversary arrived on a Friday. Adrian reserved a luxury suite downtown. 1 meeting, he told me. Go ahead. I'll be 20 minutes behind you. When I entered the room, a woman's clothes already occupied half the closet. A silk dress hung beside Adrian's suit. Cosmetics covered the bathroom counter. A second toothbrush stood beside his. Then I heard his voice in the hallway. Low. Familiar. A woman laughed. The door opened. Adrian froze. Beside him stood Isabel Moon, a consultant connected to one of the families seeking influence over Ryu Holdings. Her hand was resting on his arm. Talia, he said. He used my name the way men use silence when they need time to invent a lie. Isabel stepped backward. This isn't what it looks like. It is exactly what it looks like, I said. You simply didn't expect me to see it. Adrian entered the room and closed the door. How long have you known? That question told me everything. I found out 60 seconds ago. But you've apparently known for much longer, considering her belongings are inside the room you booked for our anniversary. Isabel reached for her coat. Adrian didn't stop her. He didn't move toward me either. He stood between us like a man, realizing there was no business strategy capable of repairing what he had done. I lifted my handbag. Adrian followed me into the hallway. Talia, wait. I continued toward the elevator. It has already ended, he said. I swear. I was going to tell you. The closet suggests otherwise. I'll fix this tonight. But my father cannot know. Not now. The merger closes next month. I stopped. 10 years. A wife. A daughter. A home. And the first name Adrian protected was his father's. What about me? You know I care about you. What about Mila? Of course I care about Mila. Then say our names before you say your father's. His face changed. He knew he had failed. This isn't who I am, he said. No, this is exactly who you became when you thought no one was watching. I left him standing in the hallway. What would you have done after opening that door? Comment how many years you could forgive before deciding you had already forgiven enough. I went home and checked on Mila. She was asleep with one hand beneath her cheek. I sat at the kitchen table until sunrise. I did not cry. I remembered the trust. My father's signature. The company I had never touched. The choice he had left me. At 5 in the morning, Mila walked into the kitchen and wrapped her arms around my waist. Why are you still wearing yesterday's clothes? I had a difficult night. Are you okay? Not yet. But I will be. She accepted that answer and returned to bed. At 8, I called Desmond. He answered on the second ring. I need everything. There was a pause. Then he said, Your father always believed you would know when the day came. I know now. I'll have the documents ready. Adrian returned home that afternoon. He looked exhausted. I ended it with Isabel. That was your responsibility, not a gift to me. I know. Why her? He sat across from me. For once, he didn't hide behind business language. When my father began preparing me to lead the company, I started believing I had to become the man he respected. Isabel understood that world. She admired the position, the influence, the part of me you never cared about. I cared about you, I know, but with you, I was still the man from the restaurant, the man who laughed too loudly and admitted he was afraid. Isabel looked at me like I was powerful, and that mattered more than being loved. His eyes lowered. For a while, I let it. It wasn't an excuse, but at least it was the truth. I'm filing for divorce, I said. His face went still. Talia, you didn't make one mistake. You created a second life and carried it into the room you booked for our anniversary. I will do anything. You should have done anything before I opened that door. 2 days later, Chairman Ryu summoned us to his private study. Adrian's mother sat beside him, her expression already accusing me of causing the problem her son created. We understand there has been an unfortunate situation, Chairman Ryu began. We want it resolved quietly. For the family and for Mila. What does quietly mean? His wife answered. It means avoiding unnecessary embarrassment. People will ask what kind of wife allows her marriage to collapse. I stared at her. Your son had an affair, and you're evaluating my performance? If this becomes public, you could lose more than you understand. This family controls rooms you have never entered. Adrian shifted beside me. Mother, stop. No, I said. Let her finish. She leaned forward. You entered this family as a waitress. Think carefully before throwing away the life we allowed you to have. There it was, the truth beneath 10 years of politeness. They still believed I had arrived empty-handed. Chairman Ryu raised one hand. This is a business family. Emotions cannot be allowed to damage the merger. I stood. You're right. This is business. I looked directly at his wife. And I don't think any of you understand what I brought into this marriage. Chairman Ryu's expression changed slightly. What does that mean? All the shareholders will attend Thursday's merger briefing? Yes, I'll explain it there. This is a domestic issue, he said. It won't be domestic by Thursday. I picked up my bag. It will be quarterly. That evening, I met Desmond inside the Reyes Maritime offices for the first time as owner rather than beneficiary. He placed the contracts before me. Ryu Holdings had received preferential port rates for 11 years because my father respected Chairman Ryu's original business principles. Those terms saved their company millions annually. Their merger projections depended on those savings continuing. What happens if I revoke them? I asked. You don't need to revoke anything. You can order a standard commercial review. Until that is completed, every preferential rate returns to market value. Is it legal? It is responsible governance. Then prepare it. I wasn't trying to destroy Ryu Holdings. I was ending the protection they believed they deserved while threatening me with the power my assets had helped create. The merger dinner was held in the same private dining room where Chairman Ryu had once judged my worth by my father's job title. 40 shareholders, board members, and shipping partners filled the room. I wore the same navy dress I had worn to my engagement dinner. Adrian saw me enter and went pale. Chairman Ryu presented expansion projections based on stable access to regional ports. He spoke confidently about growth, favorable rates, and guaranteed capacity. When he finished, I stood. A leather folder rested in my hands. Before anyone approves those projections, you should know who controls the contracts supporting them. The room quieted. My maiden name is Reyes. A senior investor turned toward me. Reyes Maritime? Yes. Chairman Ryu stared. I continued. My father spent 30 years acquiring port infrastructure contracts. After his death, his majority interest transferred to me through a private trust. I opened the folder. Reyes Maritime controls the regional docking and loading agreements Ryu Holdings depends on for nearly half its current routes. No one moved. A piece of ice shifted inside someone's glass. Adrian looked as though the floor had disappeared beneath him. You never told me, he whispered. You never asked. Chairman Ryu stood. Talia, this conversation should happen privately. You invited me into a private room 2 nights ago. His wife stiffened. You threatened my home, my reputation, and my daughter's future because you believed I had no power to answer. I handed copies of the notice to the board members. Effective immediately, Every preferential agreement between Reyes Maritime and Ryu Holdings will undergo an independent commercial review. Until that review is completed, standard market rates apply. The lead investor scanned the page. These rates change the merger valuation. Yes. Another director looked at Chairman Ryu. Did you know she controlled the contracts? No. His answer was barely audible. You spent 10 years believing a waitress married into your family and brought nothing, I said. Not once did you ask what the dock foreman actually built. Adrian finally stood. This is because of me, not my father. I faced him. The affair ended our marriage. Your family's threat ended my silence. His mother pointed at me. You are destroying Mila's inheritance out of spite. No, I am protecting her inheritance from people who confuse entitlement with ownership. I looked around the table. Reyes Maritime will honor every lawful contract. But Ryu Holdings will no longer receive special treatment, while its leadership believes humiliating me carries no commercial consequences. The silence became heavier. Then the senior investor closed the merger packet. We cannot approve these projections until the port terms are stabilized. The entire deal stopped with one sentence. Not because I screamed. Because I finally used my signature. Comment steady if you understand why calm power frightens people more than anger ever could. The consequences moved quickly. 3 partners delayed new contracts. The merger board suspended negotiations. Shareholders questioned Adrian's judgment after learning that his affair involved a consultant connected to a competing family. Isabel tried to control the story. She told a gossip outlet that I was a bitter wife using inherited influence to punish a husband who had outgrown the marriage. I gave one statement. My marriage is private. Reyes Maritime's contractual standards are not. Every partner will now operate under terms that reflect current commercial value. Nothing more. The contract spoke for me. Within 2 weeks, the Ryu board suspended Adrian's signing authority. His office was reassigned. The position his father spent decades preparing him to inherit remained empty. Chairman Ryu called me after the vote. I owe you an apology. I waited. I judged you by the title I believed your father held instead of learning what he built. More importantly, I allowed my wife to threaten you inside my home. You didn't only allow it. You tried to silence me too. Yes, it was the first time I had heard Chairman Ryu admit fault without qualification. I cannot repair 10 years, he said, but I will not repeat the insult. Then remember my name when the new rates arrive. I will. Adrian visited my consulting office 3 weeks later. Without the tailored confidence and executive authority, he looked more like the young man who used to sit in my restaurant section. I didn't know about Reyes Maritime. That was never the deepest problem. What was? You stopped wondering who I was. He absorbed that. If I had known from the beginning, would it have changed anything? Maybe you would have respected me more. Maybe you would have loved the contracts instead of the waitress. I'll never know. I loved you. You loved me until the parts of you that wanted admiration became louder than the parts capable of loyalty. His eyes filled, but I did not rescue him from the truth. Is there any chance for us? Mila will always have both parents. I mean us. I know. I removed my wedding ring and placed it on the desk. I spent 10 years helping you become the man your family expected. I need time to become the woman I stopped making room for. He nodded. No argument. No promise that he would change overnight. Just consequences. The divorce was finalized 4 months later. Adrian did not contest custody, the house or my independent property. He began showing up for Mila without using her as a path back to me. He attended school rehearsals, not only performances. He arrived for ordinary Tuesdays. When Mila asked whether we were getting back together, Adrian answered honestly, I don't know. But I know I must become someone both of you can trust, even if your mother never chooses me again. That was the first promise he made without asking for a reward. 1 year later, I run Reyes Maritime openly under my own name. The trust is gone. Desmond remains as legal counsel, but every decision now carries my signature. I merged my hospitality consultancy into the company and began developing affordable waterfront hotels on land my father once protected from predatory buyers. The waitress and the port owner no longer live separate lives. Chairman Ryu eventually requested a new partnership. Smaller routes, market rates, no family favors. I approved the negotiations on my terms. Adrian no longer leads Ryu Holdings. He works beneath the new executive board, rebuilding his credibility one decision at a time. We are not together. Perhaps we never will be. That is no longer the question controlling my future. Last spring, a 19-year-old waitress from the same peer restaurant applied for an internship. She entered my office apologizing before she finished introducing herself. "I'm sorry for taking your time. Stop apologizing for entering rooms you earned the right to enter." She looked at me in surprise. I hired her. People ask whether I regret hiding Reyes Maritime for 10 years. I don't. My father did not leave me a weapon. He left me choice. The choice to marry for love. The choice to walk away after betrayal. The choice to protect what belonged to me without becoming cruel. And the choice to start again without waiting for the man who broke my trust to rebuild my life for me. The folder did not create my comeback. The comeback was every quiet year before it. Every contract I understood. Every business I built. Every insult I survived without allowing it to define me. Adrian believed a waitress brought nothing into our marriage. His family believed I should be grateful for the rooms they allowed me to enter. They were wrong. I was never standing inside their empire. Their empire had been standing on my permission. If you believe the quiet woman should never be mistaken for the powerless woman, comment SHE1. Tell me where you are watching from, and subscribe for more stories about underestimated women who reclaim everything they were told they didn't deserve.